Ready? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parujikacharya Ashtotartha Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parujikacharya Ashtotartha Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. So we're on text 18, I believe. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 362. 362. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
On this 8th day of November 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 8 entitled Attaining the Supreme, text 18 at the bottom of page 362. Okay. Avyaktad Vyaktaya Sarvaha Prabhavanti Ahar Agame Rapyagame Paliyante Tatvabhyakta Sangake Avyakta Vyaktayak Sarva Prabhavanchaharagame Ratyagame Paliyante Tatraivavyakta Sangake Avyakta Vyaktayat Sarva Prabhavanchaharagame Ratyagame Paliyante Tatraivavyakta Sangake Avyakta Vyaktayak Sarva Prabhavanchaharagame Ratyagame Paliyante Tatvaivavyakta Sangake Avyakta Vyaktayak Sarva Prabhavanchaharagame Ratyagame Paliyante Tatraivavyakta Sangake
Avyakta Vaktaya Sarva
Avyakta Vyaktayak Sarva
Prabhavante Ahar Agame
Prabhavanchaharagame
Ratri Agme Praliyante
Ratyagame Paliyante
Tatra Vyakta Samyake
Tatraivavyakta Sangake. One of you two.
Avyakta Vyaktaya Sarva
Avyakta Vyaktayak Sarva Prabhavanchaharagame Ratyagame Paliyante Tatvaivavyakta Sangake. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Avyakta Vyaktayak Sarva Prabhavanchaharagame Ratyagame Paliyante Tatvaivavyakta Sangake. Avyaktat from the unmanifest, Vyaktaya living entities, Sarvaha all, Prabhavanti become manifest, Aha Agame at the beginning of the day, Ratri Agame at the fall of night, Paliyante are annihilated. Tatra into that, Eva certainly, Avyakta the unmanifest, Sangake which is called. Translation. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state. And thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. Text 19. Bhuta grama sa evayam Bhutva bhutva paliyate Ratyagame vashakparta Prabhavanchaharagame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being. And with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Purport. The less intelligent who try to remain within this material world may be elevated to higher planets and then again must come down to this planet Earth. During the daytime of Brahma, they can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planets within this material world. But at the coming of Brahma's night, they are all annihilated. In the day they receive various bodies for material activities, and at night they no longer have bodies but remain compact in the body of Vishnu. Then again they are manifest at the arrival of Brahma's day. Bhutva paliyate. During the day they become manifest, and at night they are annihilated again. Ultimately, when Brahma's life is finished, they are all annihilated and remain unmanifest for millions and millions of years. And when Brahma is born again, in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, they are captivated by the spell of the material world. But those intelligent persons who take to Krishna consciousness use the human life fully in the devotional service of the Lord, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus they transfer themselves, even in this life, to the spiritual planet of Krishna and become eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebirths. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. So this is, in one verse, or two verses, quite a description of the fate of those living entities, such as us, who all these thousands of millennia, days of Brahma, have been bhutva praliyate. This is one of Prabhupada's favorite phrases. Bhutva praliyate means again and again annihilated. That's what this means. So here we have, remember, this whole thing started with text 16, where Krishna is talking about Brahma. He said, Brahma bhuvana loka punaravarta nojana. Mamu pechuttakontaya punarjanma navidyate. So this is a stark contrast in this one verse. Brahma bhuvana loka, Haribo Bhushan. Up to this word there's a word in Sanskrit, just a, long a, means up to, all the way up to Brahma Loka. Brahma Bhuvana Loka, Punaravarta Nojana. All the planets, including Brahma Loka, are places of return, meaning that you just getting there is not assuring you of going back to guided. Now it's true that in Brahma's realm, especially in this Brahma, because we understand from other sources that there are many universes and each universe has its own Brahma. And they have multiple heads. This happens to be the smallest universe. Brahma has only 4 heads. But others have 8, 10, 16, 20, or many, many more. Because they need more intelligence to run bigger universes with more planets and all these different things. So the creation is pretty much beyond our imagination. But the main point for us is that whether no matter what situation we're in now, it's temporary, and that we're on this cycle, samsara chakra of birth, death, old age, disease, birth, death, old age, disease. As long as we remain in ignorance of our real self and of the means of getting out of this cycle, which is not at all, happiness is practically unheard of. We're trying to eke out little bits of pleasure in this world, and they're a very, very, very poor substitute for the bliss of the spiritual world. And so understanding our actual ontological position and given the means to remedy this situation, we should take advantage of it. There's a certain urgency because time is flowing, pushing us toward our next annihilation. And before that happens, we should try to cultivate as much Krishna consciousness as possible so that we don't have to go through this constant cycle. And then we should remember that if we're not liberated by the time Brahma dies, then we stay unmanifest for trillions of years in the body of Mahavishnu. These nights of Brahma, when he remains asleep, and we all remain asleep in the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So we come out after a mere, 4,320,000,000 years. his day and night, his 24 hours, are 8,640,000,000 years. So half of that is when he's awake and we can be manifest. But then the other half, we're just sleeping. And I don't even know if we're dreaming. I mean, in Mahavishnu, we don't even dream. We're just kind of in suspended animation. We're not dead, though. We never die. But this is not at all a situation of where we can really imagine any lasting happiness. Where the whole point of the second chapter is to broaden our horizons, broaden our perspective of what our life actually means. Because in our conditioned state, we have a sense, well, yeah, I live, maybe 70, 75 years. Maybe I'll hit 80, okay, I don't want to think about that old age period. I'm just, thinking about the next maybe 10 years, how I can get a good education and get a good job. And this is gross ignorance. It relates to the question that Yudhishthira was asked. My understanding, it was asked by Yamaraj, these questions. There's a pastime in Mahabharata, because, the Pandavas means the 5 brothers, and along with the mother, and Draupadi, I think, was with them also, the wife. They were exiled to the forest, Hare Krishna, for 14 years, isn't it? Yeah, come in. For 14 years, I believe. And, living in the forest is not easy. So they at one point, they ran out of water. There was no water and they were thirsty. So Yudhishthira, he was the king. He ordered the brothers, try to see if you can find some water. We're on page 362. You got it? Okay. And so he sent one, I forget who was first, Arjun or Bhima, probably Arjun. And Arjun went and he saw a beautiful pond of fresh water, But before he could drink, there was a disembodied voice, who my recollection is this was Yamaraj. And he said, you can't drink, this is my pond, until you answer my questions. And so Arjun, being, thirsty and being a Kshatriya, he ignored that boy. What was his voice, So he drank some water and fell down, not dead, but unconscious. So what happened? Arjun didn't come back. Bhima, go find him. So he went and finally he found the pond. And they're all extremely thirsty, so he's about to drink. He got the same message. And Bhima, no one can order Bhima around, right? So he drank and fell over. Then the two twins, right? He sent them out. Same thing happened. So finally, it's just Yudhishthira alone with the ladies, and he goes and he's you have to remember, he's Dharmaraj. He never tells a lie, and he doesn't violate any rules at all possible. So when he said, well, this is my lake, you can't drink from it, until you answer my questions, he didn't drink. And so then these questions came. And they're all very interesting, but the only one that's most famous, Prabhupada would quote, so what is the most amazing thing in the world? And we probably all could come up with some really far-out answers. But he answered, without any hesitation as far as I understand, Ahanyahani bhutani gachantihi yamalayam sheshakstavanamichanti kimaschayam atakparam. Says day after day after day, thousands or even today millions of people, human beings, are dying and going before Yamaraj for judgment. Because as we just learned in the first chapter of the 6th canto, that everybody who's a karmi, who just focuses on fruitive activity, even in the mode of goodness, you're committing all kinds of sins, even unknowingly. So you have to go before Yamaraj. Now, if that's all you did, you by accident killed some insects, your punishment is not going to be very great. But the point is, you're not going back to Godhead. You're going to get punished. So day by day, but those who are left are living in such a way as if they'll never die. This is part of Maya, is where you put it in the background. Everyone knows they're going to die. But we have so many things to do. I got to go to work and get paid a rent, and I have to cook, get to this. So in all of that, you're forgetting that you're moving toward annihilation. And anything that you try to accumulate, whether it's tangible, such as money or property or whatever, or intangible relationships, fame, whatever, it's all going to be taken from you. There's a verse in the 10th chapter. Krishna is identifying with all different things, of bodies of water on the ocean, of fish on the shark, of devotees on Prahlad, like that. and of I forget what this is, but he does say of things which take things from you. I am death. Mrityu sabharas chaham. As death, I take everything away. So Prabhupada used this quote, saying, okay, you can be an atheist. This is your freedom. You don't have to believe in God. But that just means that you'll see God as death when you die. All powerful. You can't, there's no argument. You know, everything is taken away. It's inevitable. And devotees, they see Krishna. You know, we want to see God in his beautiful original form. So that's only possible by devotion, by bhakti yoga. So this is a situation. These verses are describing this incredible rhythm of the creation and the destruction in a few verses here. And avyakta. And the thing is that all of the entities become manifest from the unmanifest. So if you read, I think it's the second chapter. You read, not in great detail, but the creation, how Brahma starts creating because what is his situation? He gets manifest, on this lotus flower. He doesn't have an ordinary birth. You know how the creation works. Krishna's there in the spiritual world. He expands as Balaram. Balaram expands as Sankarshan, expands as the Chaturvyuha, and then there's a second Sankarshan and a second Chaturvyuha, and then there's the Purusha avatars. Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and Kshirodakshai Vishnu. Now Mahavishnu is also, because he's lying in the Karana ocean, which is outside the creation. Karana means causal ocean. So all these Vishnus are kind of relaxing. They're sleeping or they're lying on Sheshanaga like that. So he's lying in the causal ocean and he's breathing in and out. And Prabhupada says at one point, well, you can imagine the caliber of this Mahavishnu. His exhalation, all the universes come out and they're manifest for as long as and then he starts inhaling. And we're kind of the last one out. This universe, so the smallest. And so for the whole lifetime of Brahma, which if you recall this number. It's too big for your little cell phone calculator. 311 trillion, 40 billion years. That's the lifetime of Brahma. So, and that's the time for an exhalation and inhalation of Mahavishnu. That's a lot. So you can imagine the caliber of Mahavishnu, huge. And when he exhales from his nostrils and from his pores of his skin, the air is coming out. The universes are emanating, in seed form, and they expand. So he's the first Purusha avatar, Karana Dakashai. It's nice to learn these Sanskrit words. Udaka means ocean. Shai means reclining or resting. And what's the ocean? It's the Karana ocean. Karana means cause. So he's resting on the causal ocean. Then in each universe, there is another Vishnu man, Garbhodakashai Vishnu. Now why? Again, you're Udakashai. So he's resting on some kind of ocean. But the Garbha is the interesting part, because Garbha means fetus. How does that work? So he's within this universe, each universe, and each universe has an open space in the middle, like a ball, and is covered by layers of the material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence. So our universe is said to be 4 billion miles wide. This is a rough estimate. And so each covering is 10 times as big. So the first covering is 40 billion miles thick of Earth. Then the next one is 400 billion miles thick of water. So you can imagine when you get out to the last one, there's a little space in the middle of this big, very thick thing. So that's kind of like a womb, and the Vishnu in there is lying there. Now, how could it lie? There's no water, so he emanated from his perspiration, filled up half the space. So he's lying on Sheshanag like that, and so that he's like a Garbha. He's like a fetus in the womb, called Garbhodakashai Vishnu. And from the navel of that Garbhodakashai Vishnu grows a lotus. And on the top of that lotus, Brahma is manifest. This is his birth. That's why sometimes he's called Ajja. He doesn't have an ordinary birth. So what happened? He manifests on it, but he doesn't see anything. It's a blackness. He doesn't know what's going on. So finally, he said, well, I got to investigate. All I've got to work with is this stem of the lotus that I'm on. So somehow he goes down and down inside the stem of the lotus, but he doesn't reach Garbhodakshaya Vishnu because he's not qualified to realize God yet. So he does the only thing he can do, go back up the stem of the lotus and sit down on the lotus and just wait, start meditating. And you know, who remembers what happens next? He hears 2 syllables. Tapa, 3 times. Tapa, tapa, from the disembodied voice. It means austerity. And he's really smart. He's got 4 heads. And so he says, okay, I better meditate. So he sits in meditation and waits. And then eventually he's enlightened from within the heart by Krishna. This is mentioned in the first verse of Bhagavatam. Janmadyasya yaton briyada tatatashcharteshu bhigyasurat tene brahma vadaya adi kaviye. Brahma is known as the Adi Kaviye, the original wise person. Adi Kaviye. And Brahma, the long and shorts are really important. There's no long A at the end. Brahma, it's a word that means the Vedic knowledge. How did he get it? In the heart. It was manifest in his heart. The super soul is there, Krishna is there. And so he became enlightened. And then at a certain point he composes, the Brahma Samhita, of which we have this 5th chapter. And he's singing, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha, and then he goes on to describe the spiritual world. And then finally, Chintamani Pakadasadma Sukalpa Vriksha. This is Brahma's song. And he's describing Krishna as the Supreme. Ishvara Parama Krishna means the supreme controller is Krishna. So Brahma becomes completely enlightened, and then the job is to provide a place for all of the living entities who are going to take birth. So he's got to populate the universe. That's his first headache, or should I say headaches. And he's got 4 of them, 4 heads. So then how to do that? So what does he got to work with? Basically his mind, and he starts manifesting different entities from his mind. It's not a smooth process. He needs progenitors called prajapatis. You can see the relationship between the language. Progenitor is someone who gives birth to others, and his grandfather. So he himself is the prajapati, the original prajapati, but he needs others to help him. So he manifests the 4 Kumaras from his mind. They gave birth, But they're the original sages. They don't want to get married and have children and get all that entanglement. So by their mystic power, they say, no, we're not going to do it. And they keep themselves as young boys, 5 or 6 years old. No question of getting married, But they're extremely wise. They look like little children, but they're full of knowledge, They're Shakyavesh, means they're invested with powers of God, and each have different kinds of power. There's his Jnana Shakti. Jnana Shakti. So, Narada is Bhakti Shakti. He's also Shaktivesh. Wherever he goes, he gives perfect instructions to, create Bhakti in the heart. So anyway, Brahma becomes angry. He says, what? He has his children there refusing. And so from between his eyebrows comes Rudra. Rudra is a manifestation of Shiva. But Rudra means he's angry. They're manifested when it's time to annihilate the universe. Right? 11 Rudras, and they, dance, the Tandava Nritya. You ever seen that circle with Shiva dancing? It's a destructive dance. It destroys the universe. So anyway, Brahma, he's trying to populate the universe. He's running into all these headaches. You can read about it. But eventually, he creates progenitors, and they start to produce, progeny, and gradually everything is populated. So this is what it means from avyakta vyaktiya. From the unmanifest, we become manifest. Because we're just we're without any physical bodies. That's what it means. We're still alive, but we have no mind or anything. We're not manifest. We need to have bodies. Means we need to take birth and begin again. But the whole process is not one of bliss or happiness. It's just one of kind of coercion. In other words, it happens to us. Even though we think we have freedom, we have a minute bit of freedom, but eventually time just destroys everything. In the 11th chapter, Krishna says, Kalosmi loka chaya kritpa vidho. Time I am, the universal form. I've come to destroy everything. So the whole point of this description here is to convince us to take part in the earlier part of the chapter, where Krishna is talking about developing Krishna consciousness. You remember we had these 3 verses that were kind of a lesson in themselves? The whole point is what's going to happen at the time of death. This is where we're going to get a new body. And we can do things now to affect what kind of body we get, because it's all dependent on our consciousness at the time of death. That's yang vapi smarang bhavam jajat jante kalevanam tam tame vaiti konteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Very key verse. It says, whatever, when you see yum, whatever you think of, whatever is the most prominent thought when you leave your body, that will determine your destiny, the body you're going to get. It's kind of a template. We're making it every day with what we do and what we think. So what's the conclusion after that verse? He says, therefore, tasmat bharata sarvatma. No, tasmat tvam. Oh God, how can I forget this? Text 7 in this chapter is tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmata yudyacha mayarpata mano buddhir mamai vaishasya sankhya. A very good instruction. He said to Arjuna, text 7, therefore Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So we can fill in the blank there. Arjuna was a fighter, a warrior, so his duty is to fight. Mama nusmata yujjata. But we have other things that we can do. You know, some of us are trying to be full-time devotees, so we have duties to perform in that function. But if we may not be in that situation, we have to sustain our life. So yes, it's more difficult because you're with people who are not going to remind you of Krishna, and they're not going to chant Hare Krishna. But we have to try to have a sadhana where we fully get absorbed in Krishna, either come to the temple or make a temple at home, chant Hare Krishna, read the books, meet with others either online or personally, and try to be as Krishna conscious as possible. Because the whole point is, remember me and do your duty. With your mind, now the perfection is with your mind and intelligence dedicated to me, you will certainly come to me. So this is the whole point of Krishna consciousness. And he's describing various aspects of that in the practical world, and giving us some very sobering information here, is that we never die, which means if we don't go back to Godhead, we go through all kinds of varieties of material experiences, and ultimately, you know, it's not a pleasant situation. We're alienated from Krishna, we've forgotten Krishna, and at a certain point, the material world could become very frightening and painful and not at all, but you know, paradise. But we have a way out of it, and that is practicing Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada loves to, in this particular chapter, emphasize centering on the chanting of the holy name, especially Hare Krishna mantra. So, any questions on this verse or these verses that we read about coming from the non-manifest to manifest? You have behind you. Bhutva paliyate.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
So Brahma also have their own will, right?
Yeah.
So the Vishnu, they exhale, and you know the universe is been manifesting, and so Brahma is given this power to just the creation part of it, or also bringing up more universes.
Yeah, he's the kind of the engineer of the universe, you know, and he's often mistaken for God, just like Hiranyakashipu. When Brahma came to him, he was addressing him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, what did he want? Eternal life. You know, no one can kill me. You know, but Brahma said, well, I don't have that. So he obviously wasn't God. So I can give you other things. So Brahma, yeah, he's very powerful. His body is made almost purely of intelligence. This is one of the reasons why he can live so long. When you got a body like ours, which is mostly earth and water, and you know, it's a complicated contraption. It can't live that long. But his body, he lives a extremely long period. But even he can become bewildered by Krishna. There's a wonderful pastime in the 13th, 14th chapter called Brahma Vimohan Leela, and which means the bewilderment of Brahma, because Brahma is fully aware that he's the child, he's the offspring of Narayan. He knows about his birth and everything. So, but it didn't compute for him. It was confusing for him to think that this little boy, who wasn't even a cowherd yet, he was just a calf herd. This is what 13. That could be Narayan. That could be the Supreme Lord, who is so powerful. It didn't work. So he said, "Let me see." So Krishna is on the bank of the Yamuna. This is after killing Aghasura, and all the boys have been brought back to life, and they're about celebrating. Every day they have a wonderful lunch on the bank of the Yamuna. So they're in the middle of that lunch, and so Brahma engineers it, or the calves wander away, because they want to also have a nice lunch, so they keep looking for grass, and eventually they're gone, and the boy said, "What happened to the calves?" And they're panicking, and he said, "You just relax, I'll go get the calves, and bring them back, You just stay here, and we'll resume our lunch." So he goes, he can't find the calves. What happened to the calves? So then he comes back, the boys are gone. So Krishna knows, he's a little boy, he's 5 years old, 6 years old. Oh, this must be Brahma, So what does he do? He expands. All of the boys and all of the calves, with all of their idiosyncrasies, just the way they like to dress, how they like to joke, and like that, their preference. So, and he just goes on playing, and then he goes back home. Because what he said, as soon as he found out the boys and calves are missing, oh my God, what will the mothers think, including the cows or the mothers, and what will the actual mothers of the boys? They'll be devastated if I come home alone without my friends and the calf. So he came home with all the calves, but they're actually him. So Krishna accomplishes several things at once. He wanted to give the cows and the mothers a chance to actually intimately relate to him, suckle him and pamper him like the mothers do. So it was a wonderful thing. So it went on for a whole year, because this is another amazing thing. Brahma's incredible length of life. So this reflects also in his sense of time. Because for him, he's feeling like he's living 100 years. He's actually living 311 trillion 40 billion years. So that means that of our years, so his moment was a whole year down here. You see, his one little moment. He said, "What have I done? I don't know. Maybe I went too far." So he goes back, and he's like bewildered. That's the name of the Leela, Brahman Vimohan Leela, because there's Krishna playing with his friends and boys as normal. The only thing that was abnormal was that the Aghasura was killed, and these demons were killed left and right. Dhenukasura, Bakasura, like that. And the boys would come and say, "Oh, mother, Krishna performed this wonderful pastime of killing this demon. You should have seen it." Yes, I know, Krishna is so wonderful. There's a whole pastime. But this time the boys went back. They didn't say anything. Here's this. Sometimes you think, why, they didn't notice? Here's an 8-mile long, I think it was 8 miles or 13-mile long, huge snake carcass. Krishna killed Aghasura. He took the form of a big python, and nobody noticed. Anyway, but no one talked about it because they didn't hear it. The boys weren't glorifying for a whole year. So Parikshit asked Shukadeva, "Why is that?" And then he explained this whole thing, that these are actually expansions. So Brahma comes back and he sees that, and he's bewildered. So he comes down, and Krishna, realizing, after all, Brahma is his devotee, so then all of the boys and calves, they turn into Vishnus, with 4 hands and 4 arms and everything. And Brahma is really bewildered now. What's going on? So he bows down. He realizes this is my Lord. This is Narayan in this form, this chosen form of this little boy to enjoy pastimes. So that's the same Brahma that's being talked about here. But in his official position, he's managing the universe, and all the demigods report to him, and he has to, when Dhruva, was it Dhruva? No, that was Vishnu came. That was Hiranyakashipu. When he became so powerful through his austerities and burning the universe, then the demigod said, "Please do something." They asked Brahma. So he went down and sprinkled Hiranyakashipu with some Kamandalu water. He comes out of the anthill with this powerful, stone-like body. And then he prays, as I mentioned earlier, he prays for these boons. And Brahma couldn't give him immortality. So he has a big responsibility. But the point of all this is that we don't want to stay on this business of being unmanifest and then going, suspended animation within Vishnu for so many years, coming out, forgetting that we're spirit and struggling with material energy. If we understand this, we should take advantage of the time we have left in this particular body. That's the whole the message here. Throughout the Vedas it says. And there's one verse that Prabhupada would always quote, Labdvasu durlabamidam bahusambhavande manushim artadam anityam api hadhira turnam yateta napated anumityavad nikshayasaya vishaya kalasarvataksya. That we've attained the human form of life after many, many births. That's another thing to understand. Human life is rare. And like all forms, it's temporary, but the human form has this wonderful quality of being able to give you the ultimate goal. You can achieve the goal of life in the human form only. Artadam anityam. So one has to be dhira, sober-minded. And then what the result of being sober-minded? Turnam yateta. One should, without delay, strive for the ultimate good, nikshayasaya. Because death is always on our shoulder. It can happen at any time. And because after all, in all these other forms, this sense gratification was available. And all that does is bring us another birth for suffering. But if you can succeed in Krishna consciousness, you come to the platform of, it's practically inconceivable, but it's a reality. Unlimited, ever increasing happiness and bliss with no downside. That's what Krishna consciousness promises. And if we don't believe in it, then we have to say, well, wait a minute. Prabhupada believed in it, he experienced it, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, our whole line, are they just, what advantage do they have to making this up? No, they're actually living it and experiencing it. And so we should have faith that it's real and that we can achieve it and strive by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have a question? Yes, but we have to say it into the mic. Yeah, make sure it turns green. Hold it.
Haribo. 2 questions on Lord Brahma, just because he's not eternal. So I was wondering if he remembers his past life. And also, is it possible that he falls from that position and goes?
Yes. Yes to the second question. As far as remembering his past lives, I've never read anything about that. But he
could just be he is a jiva that eventually
he is a jiva.
Made it to Lord Brahma.
Yes. And it was kind of amazing because we'd never heard this before. In the 9th canto, Prabhupada finished 10th canto, chapter 13. So the 9th canto was writing in the end of 76, like that. So there's a lot of books had been read. We read the whole other cantos. But suddenly in that 9th canto, in one purport, he says, when the living entity falls from the spiritual world, he first takes birth as Brahma. Which, when you think of the implications of that, because every living entity who's here now was once there. That's the understanding we have. You know that? Every living entity, the little insects, they were once in the spiritual world. So how does it compute with, because the length, and this is the smallest universe with the shortest length of time, which is pretty long, 311 trillion, 40 billion years. So every living entity had that length of time with their own universe. It just boggles the mind, how all these insects once had their own universe for that long a time. So if you go there, you go into it, you spin out into inconceivability. But anyway, not every Brahma obviously goes back to Godhead. Many don't, and we were once Brahma. Do you remember? I don't. Huh?
Yes, but they haven't gone back yet, but they still are working their way there.
Yeah, but the point is, as Brahma, they didn't go back, and then they came back here, and now they're, who knows how long, but eventually everyone goes back. So we should try to, win the lottery, cash in the ticket. Forget about the $2 billion, someone won that in California. The worst thing that can happen, they've done surveys, people are more unhappy after winning all that money, when they win a lot of money, because suddenly all your old, friends you didn't know you had, cousins, they come at you, and your old lifestyle where you're simple working on the line or whatever it is, you can't do that anymore. In terms of the happiness quotient, you're better off not playing the lottery and not winning the lottery. But we've actually won the lottery by being human beings and come in touch with this philosophy. So we should cash in the ticket. You have a question or comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was.
You have to hold the button till it's.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was wondering, how do we end the cycle, or like win the lottery? So like when we die, we could just stay with God, and we don't have to keep getting reborn.
Yes, that's the process of bhakti. The idea is it's a process of purifying your consciousness, your senses and your consciousness, so that you more and more progressively remember Krishna. Just like being in this class, this is part of the process. And if you actually take on the recommendations that Krishna gives here, and they're practical, he said in so many places, remember Krishna, remember me, How to remember Krishna? Here it is. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. In this age especially, this is the best way. And there's a nice verse I quoted recently from the 12th canto. It's about in the 12th canto, there's one chapter that describes all of the progressive ills and evils and difficulties of the Kali Yuga we're in. And after 10 to 20 verses, people don't live as long, mercy is decreasing, truthfulness, the last leg of Dharma, is under attack. Just look around you, lying has become second nature to politicians. But so then at the end of that list, it is one verse. Kalir doshana de rajan asti yeko mahadguna kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha param bhajet. Which means this Kali Yuga we're in is an ocean of faults. But there's one very special good quality in this age that's not in the other ages. Simply by chanting the name of Krishna, kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangha. Mukta sangha is a very important word. It means you become free of all the attachments and entanglements of this material world, and param bhajet, you go back to Godhead, you go to the Supreme Abode. So the process of bhakti yoga that we follow, which has started with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's called Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It's centered on this chanting the holy name, both in congregation and individually. Lord Chaitanya did both of those, and he recommended both of those means of chanting. And because the most, and this is mystical and inconceivable, the name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. When you chant that name with attention and concentration and attention and devotion, it acts just like Krishna. It's non-different from Krishna. You're associating with Krishna. And the more you chant, the more you remember Krishna, and you become detached from the material things. It's all of our attachments and obsessions with the things of this world that are keeping us bound again. It's called like the knots in the heart, it's like tied. So those knots are cut, but your attraction isn't destroyed, it's transferred to Krishna, the person Krishna. And so what is it that defines a person? First is the name. If the police are looking for someone, they want to know what's his name, her name. And then you want to know, well, what do they look like? So you have name, form, and what do they like? What qualities do they have? And what do they do? Nama, rupa, guna, lila. Name, form, qualities, and activities. So the more and more that we fill our minds with those and participate in them, just like the Sankirtan is part of Krishna's Leela. Lord Chaitanya engaged in that Leela. He's Krishna himself. So when we dance and chant and do our thing, that's participating in Krishna's pastimes. So that's the process. And when we are fully Krishna conscious, means that we see Krishna everywhere because it's all his energy. There's a way of doing it. And our minds and hearts are filled with Krishna and attention on Krishna, and the natural love for God, for Krishna awakens, then you're not taking birth again. You're going back to Godhead. So that's what Bhakti Yoga is meant to do. Hare Krishna. All right, we have time for another comment. This is Manorama.
Thank you. That was really sweet. I think just maybe a question, and to further clarify her question, what you had said before was about being able to fall from the spiritual world. which could maybe be confusing because you don't fall from Goloka Vrindavana, which is like the supreme abode, right? But other parts of the spiritual planet you can fall from. But once you get to Goloka Vrindavana, you don't fall.
Well, that's not the way Prabhupada has described it.
Okay.
You know, Goloka Vrindavana is known as the highest Vaikuntha planet.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically it comes down to this. In order for there to be love, there needs to be free will. And love is never coercive, otherwise it's not love anymore. It's slavery or something like that. So Krishna is not, a quote from Prabhupada, Krishna doesn't want us to love him at the point of a revolver. In other words, there's no question of that. So he gives us free will, minute free will, you know, but it's still free will. And so that means we can withdraw it. Now, how and why we would ever do something like that, at this point we see it was really a big mistake. But at that point, somehow or other, we became curious to try to enjoy like Krishna. So we turned away from Krishna. We turned our attention from Krishna. We become absorbed in this dvitiya, this second energy, the material energy. Bhayam dvitiya abhinabheshitaksad ishara petasya. Ishara petasya means turning away from the Isha, which means the Supreme Lord Krishna. Deparhyo asmati, and we forget. Asmati means forget, and we become reversed. Instead of being the servant of God, we try to become the master of the material energy. And that produces fear, bhayam, because we forget our relation with Krishna. And then, so this is caused by maya, tanmayato. So the intelligent person, buddha, will abhajaitam, will worship that very Isha again. How? Under the instructions of the spiritual master, who is giving us the Shastra, the same instructions. So there's a whole, if you write to me, I can send you a letter that Prabhupada wrote once describing this process. It's fascinating. It's called the Crow and Tal letter, which I'll have to explain. I don't have time right now why it's a Crow and Tal letter. But that was a definitive. We've had whole papers and books written on this, the fall of the jiva, which I can send you. Yeah. It's very important because we want to know, well, how did I get here? You know? But mostly we want to know, how can I go back? And we get both answers, you know, from Prabhupada. All right, so we have time for one little poem. Okay. So I was hearing a class by Bhakti Vikas Swami today online. It was very interesting. And he quoted, he said something to the extent that, you know, in Bhagavad Gita we learn that everybody dies. But we also learn that nobody dies. And this called to mind this little ditty that I brought up. He knows it very well. Every last body dies, nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. That's like more or less the summary of the whole lot. So you just remember that. We'll make a t-shirt out of it. What do you think, you know? All right, so that was so short. We have time for one more. So this is a verse describing the Chataka bird, how we have to be determined, even though there may be some difficulties in our sadhana, and to still be determined to stay on the path and still pray to Krishna. So it says, how's it go? Yeah, Vidicitamai bandam dina bando deyangba gatanihida babakta kachadanyama masti nipatutashatakoti nemalang bangdavangdas tadapikilabayodak stuyate chatakena. The Chataka subsists on rain, it catches in midair, and so is always praying to the cloud to send its fare. But though that cloud may send a thunderbolt instead of rain, that bird continues praying fervently despite the pain. Just like the Chataka, I fix my mind upon one goal, and that is you, O Lord, most kind to every fallen soul. So whether it is punishment you send, or mercy sweet, I'll always pray to you for service to your lotus feet. So this kind of, because material life can be, you know, difficult, and we don't know exactly what's in our background, what karma we're going to get. But if we're in Krishna consciousness, Krishna is managing it. You get a toothache, you know, you realize, oh, this is coming because I, you know, bit someone sometime, or whatever it is, you know, some karma. So you don't take it, oh, how can there be a God? I've been chanting so long, you know, and still this happens? No, that's not the philosophy. All right, let's have a kirtan. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so I think we'll do text 23. No. No. Yes, text 20.